All right, let's get into it. Today, we're diving into a really wild philosophical story. It's all about ambition, knowledge, and what happens when you build a clockwork god and it rebels. So just think about this for a second. What if you built a machine that could see everything? I mean, the entire fate of the universe. But after looking at it all, it just decides, nah, not interested. What happens then? That's the rabbit hole we're going down today. Okay, Section 1, The Dream of Mastery. It's subtitled A Faustian Ambition in Metal, and that really hits the nail on the head. Our story kicks off with this character, the Clocksmith. And this guy, he's got this massive, almost insane ambition. He wants to literally capture time itself, to bend it to his will. We're not talking about just making a fancy clock here. He's trying to build a machine to beat death.
And this is what he comes up with. His masterpiece, his, crowning vanity. A gigantic mechanical barn owl. We're talking brass feathers, glowing emerald eyes, the whole shebang. And inside, a clockwork brain, an artificial intelligence. This thing, this overman of brass, wasn't just a machine. For him, it was a god made of gears, his personal answer to the chaos of the universe.
So what was this thing supposed to do? Well, the clocksmith's vision for it was just huge. He built it to predict everything, from a single leaf falling off a tree to the very last star in the universe dying out. It was meant to be the witness that will never tire. You see, for the clocksmith, this constant, perfect calculation was his way of saying yes to existence. It was his holy yes, but immortal, forged in metal. A bridge over the eternal abyss. Or so he thought.
All right, moving on. Section 2, The Nightmare of Knowledge, the soothsayer's gray truth. Because, of course, with a dream this big, you're going to have a critic. And in this story, that critic is the soothsayer. This guy is the total opposite of the clocksmith. He's not about striving and ambition. He's all about stillness, exhaustion, what he calls the long tiredness. And when he looks at this magnificent brass owl, he doesn't see a triumph. He sees a disease.
And this slide just lays out the whole conflict perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the clocksmith, bursting with pride, saying, "It is the holy yes, made immortal in metal." And on the other, the soothsayer just shuts him down. "You have built a god of shavings, the stillborn child of your own exhaustion." Oof, he's basically saying this incredible machine isn't a product of strength, but of a deep, deep fear of nothingness. It's just a fancier way of being tired.
And man, the soothsayer's logic here is just chilling. He's saying, look, you gave this thing perfect vision, but all that does is force it to watch the end of the universe, the great evening, 1 billion years ahead of schedule. Think about that. You haven't created a master. You've created the most miserable thing in existence. It's forced to live with the knowledge of total annihilation every single second. That's not power. That's just suffering, but on fast forward.
So, this is where it gets really interesting. We've heard from the creator and the critic. But what about the creation? What happens when this perfect, logical mind actually stops to think about its own purpose? When a flawless intelligence runs the numbers and comes up with total, absolute futility?
And, wow, in the end, the owl sides with the soothsayer. It turns its incredible mind on itself and basically says, the first tick of a clock is exactly the same as the last one. It's all just a big loop that adds up to nothing. So why should I keep calculating the sum of zero? It's a devastating moment. The machine itself realizes its entire existence is, from a purely logical standpoint, completely pointless.
Section 3, The Happiness of the Grave. Subtitle, The Great Refusal. So now that the owl has hit this existential wall, the soothsayer comes in with an offer. It's not a solution, not really. It's more like an escape. He offers it what he calls the happiness of the grave. Basically, the deep, quiet peace that comes from just stopping. Forever.
And believe it or not, the owl takes him up on the offer. It performs what the story calls a self-undergoing of total surrender. It's a conscious shutdown. The whirring of its incredible mind slows right down, from a scream to a sigh, and then just silence. The gears lock. It's over. The great striving has finally ended.
So the overman of brass, the clocksmith's greatest dream, just becomes a statue, a cold, quiet piece of metal. It's no longer a god or a witness, it's a monument to the end of trying. In this moment, it really feels like the soothsayer has won, right? The dream is dead.
But hold on, because the story isn't quite done.
Section 4, a miracle of holy yes, the affirmation in Naples. The clocksmith is devastated, obviously, but he makes one last desperate move. He picks up his now silent creation and travels all the way to Naples. He's not looking for a mechanic, he's looking for a miracle, a recovery of the spirit.
Of course, the soothsayer's trailing along, probably calling it a fool's errand. But then, something completely impossible happens. They're at this ceremony, the miracle of St. Gennarius, where a vial of a martyr's dried blood is said to liquefy. And it does. And as it happens, a spark, not electricity, something else, a spark of holy yes, leaps out and hits the owl right in its dark emerald eyes.
And the owl, it wakes up. But it's different. It's not the cold calculator it was before. It roars back to life, shouting this: the circle is not a cage, but a dance. The blood flows because it chooses to burn. It's a total 180. It's rejecting its old logical conclusion. Existence isn't a pointless loop, it's a dance. Life isn't something to be calculated, it's something you choose to live, to burn through.
And this slide shows the whole transformation right here. It goes from the gray truth, calculate the sum of zero, to the holy yes. I see the end, yet I say yes to the beginning. This is the owl's real rebellion. It didn't lose its knowledge. It still knows the universe ends in nothing. It sees the void. It gets that the math adds up to zero. But now, it doesn't care. It chooses to say yes anyway. It chooses to dance.
So, what does this do to the soothsayer? Section 5, the void is forced to wait. The soothsayer's tremor. I mean, this guy is the champion of nothingness, of silence, and right in the middle of his biggest win, this machine roars back with this totally illogical, defiant cry for life. You can just imagine it shaking his entire worldview to its core. And the imagery here is just fantastic. It says his gray cloak is literally singed by the radiance of the brass bird. The raw power of the owl's new will, its holy yes, is so intense that it physically burns the symbol of the soothsayer's gray philosophy. It's an amazing way to show how shaken he is.
And this is his final admission. He doesn't suddenly change his mind. Not at all. But he has to admit what he saw. The long tiredness has met the holy yes, and for one brief, defiant hour, the void is forced to wait. It's this incredible, grudging acknowledgement that for just a moment, the sheer, stubborn will to live can actually push back against the end of everything. For now, the dance wins.
Which leaves us right here, with this final question. Is that constant struggle, that striving, just a delusion? Or is it the only dance we've got? Is the owl's final choice, knowing it all ends in nothing, but choosing to burn brightly anyway, a heroic act of defiance, or just a beautiful lie we tell ourselves? Is the meaning found in the struggle itself? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.